Hi, welcome to the Starving College Student's Guide to Cooking. Now, this is a video blog that may help you learn to cook different things if you are just out on your own living in a college dorm room or apartment, or if you just don't know how to cook or don't have time or just want to learn to cook new things. Now, the ideas I show in here aren't going to be very hard, and some may take a little more time than others. But if you don't have much cooking experience, some of these ideas could really help to feed you and your family. Or could just be some homemade ideas like you're used to your mom making. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make breakfast. So what I'm going to do is a breakfast mix. And to do that, what I'm going to be using is just a regular baking sheet, so you'll need one of those. A sort of larger frying pan, a spatula, and then we'll also be using the oven. So food-wise, what we're going to use is, I have ham, leftover ham, and some bacon for my breakfast meats. Then we need eggs, a potato, and you can use different seasonings, like I have salt and pepper, and then garlic and onion seasoning. You also need butter or vegetable oil, that works too, to help brown things. And at the end, when I'm done, I will use ketchup and salsa. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so first off, we're going to start by setting the oven. I'm going to be using the broil function today, but if you don't have that on your oven, then you can just set it to about 350 degrees. Follow the recipe as I do, and then at the end, stick the potatoes in a skillet to get them brown and crunchy, just if you like it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and set my oven to broil, and we'll get started cooking. So we're going to start off by taking our potato and a peeler. You'll need that if I didn't say that in the beginning of this video. So this one I got at the Dollar Tree. It's really easy, and all you have to do is take the peeler and run it along the side of the potato. To get some of the skin off. And that's how you peel a potato. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of this, so that way we can cut it up and get it ready to bake. Now, another way you could do this is you can leave the skin on, which makes it a bit more crunchy. You can also just plain cook potatoes, slice them up thin or in cubes, and cook them in the skillet. But I found that if you cook them in the oven, it takes a little less time, because you can walk away while they're cooking. And with the right ingredients, you can make them crispy just like in a pan. And this recipe can allow you to go do other things while you're waiting for the potatoes to cook. Now, the other way to do it, which I may do this again, is if you have a deep fryer, or if you know how to deep fry things, then you can just stick the potato in there and you get the same crunchiness. So it tastes like the home-style fried potatoes you could get when you go to Denny's or restaurants like that. So it just depends how much time you have or how much you have to do. I know this recipe may take a little more time than normal, or what you may like if you're on a busy schedule, but this is the type of recipe that I like to make on days where I don't have early classes or weekends. And it works because sometimes I know I get tired of things like cereal or sandwiches or top ramen. I know college students love top ramen, but for me that can only go so far. So when I get tired of stuff like that, I make this. So our next step is to cut this potato. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a knife, and I'm also going to use a paper plate. You can use a regular plate if you have them, but I like using paper plates for stuff like this when I don't have a cutting board, because you could just cut, do what you have to do, and throw it away. So we're going to start by cutting the potato into thick chunks, like I am doing now. So you cut them something like that, and then that way we can do the next step, which is to cut it into cubes. If you make the potatoes smaller, it'll help them to cook faster. Okay, so now we've taken our potato and we've cut them into chunks like this. See how they're kind of smaller? That'll help them cook quicker. So next we're going to put them onto our baking sheet. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a little vegetable oil. Now it may look oily, but the vegetable oil will help them brown and crisp up in the broiler. So just pour a little bit over. Now you see on a lot of cooking shows they use extra virgin olive oil. Well, I'm in college and on a budget, and vegetable oils or olive oil is expensive. So I use the cheaper stuff, vegetable oil. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my seasoning. So I have here garlic powder, and I'm going to sprinkle it over, and then onion powder, a little salt, and lots of pepper because that's the way I like it. And this may seem a little gross, but then I'm going to take my hands and mix these potatoes up. You want to make sure that all of the potatoes are in the oil, because the surfaces that are on the oil, that's what's going to make, those are the parts that are going to be crispy. And then I'm going to make sure it's in one even layer on my cookie sheet. And that's how we start the crispy potatoes. So we have our potatoes, they're one even layer on the cookie sheet. And we're just going to stick these into the broiler, and we'll check on them later. The object is to cook them and let the surfaces covered with oil crispen up. And it'll taste a lot like home fries you can get when you go out. Okay, so what we're going to start to do now is cook our breakfast meats. I'm going to turn the pan on and put it medium to low. And then I'm going to take bacon. You can take sausage, or I'm using bacon and ham just to give it a little variety. And the key to cooking bacon, how I do it, is you take a strip. Yeah, it looks gross, but hey, it's really good when it's done. I break it in half and set it in the skillet to cook. So I will go ahead and do that. I'm going to make 2 strips, so cut in half, it's 4 strips each. And we just let that cook. Now, you have to be careful with this part, because if you keep the heat too high, the oil that comes from the bacon will start to splatter, and you can get burned. So, when you're cooking it, keep it on, don't put the heat up high, and just, if it starts popping a lot, just take a step back and turn the heat down. Gotta stay safe when you're cooking. Okay, so we're cooking the bacon, and it started sizzling. So the key to cooking bacon is when it starts to shrink, like if you noticed from before, it's shrinking a little bit, and if you notice the edges getting brown. So that might be your sign that it's time to flip it. So we're going to take a regular fork, You can use tongs, but I'm just going to use a fork. And then we're going to take the edges and just flip it. Sometimes it can be a little hard, especially if you're not used to cooking. In that case, tongs might be better. But you're just going to flip it over. Sometimes it's hard to tell because some brands of bacon shrink a lot. But you can flip it as many times as you want, as long as it's cooked, so you don't get sick from food poisoning. Then it's good. See, this side is not quite done yet. It's getting a little brown, but it's not that brown. So we're just gonna let that side cook a little bit, and we can flip it over later. Okay, so while our bacon is cooking, you're gonna check on our potatoes. You'll need an oven mitt or a thick towel. I hate using the towel, so I always grab for an oven mitt. This pan is going to be hot. So we're going to take the potatoes out. And you can see right away on some of the surfaces that the oil has caused the potato to brown. So we're going to take our spatula and flip our potatoes so that we can get more sides brown. And you can hear them kind of sticking. What I normally do is I bake these, and when you can bake these, you can use foil or wax paper, which keeps the potatoes from sticking to the pan and allows you an easier cleanup. So we're going to put these in a little more and get these a little more crispy. And we'll use them at the very end. And then I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Right now we're sticking these back in. Okay, so back to the bacon. We're going to flip it again and see if the other side's done. Okay, so it's cooking slow. But it's better to keep flipping it, that way it doesn't burn on one side. Some of it's getting a little done, but we still need to cook it more. So we're looking for crispy brown. I'm going to turn my heat up a little bit. And we'll let that cook. Okay, so our bacon is cooking. As you can see, we have a piece that's done right here. That's like really good brown, so you can use that. And we flipped that, so that's how you get this color. So now we're going to take the other pieces. Now I know now I'm flipping with the spatula, but it works just the same if you have the skills to do it. So we're going to flip these and let them cook on the other side. And even if it doesn't look crispy, completely crispy on one side, that's okay, because you still have the heat from the other side cooking, and so by the time it's done, you will have a crispy piece of bacon. And then we're not looking to burn it, just make it a little crunchy. So we'll let that cook. Okay, so we finished cooking our bacon. It looks nice and crispy, kind of good, right? So now we're gonna, I've gotten a paper plate with a paper towel on it, and we're gonna put the bacon on. So to let it cool and drain the grease. So let me just set that on there. And the reason I have the water running is because one thing that I've learned living on campus in a college dorm room where people share an apartment is that some people don't know how to drain grease from when they cook food. So what I've learned to do is you get the water in the sink really hot, because the grease in the pan's hot, and then once it's hot, you can go ahead and pour it down the drain with the water. So that way it doesn't stay in the sink, and you don't have bad roommates if you're sharing roommates. Alright, so that's done. I'm going to wipe the side of the pan with a towel, so that way it doesn't drip onto the stove. And now we have our potatoes done. Okay, so we've also finished our potatoes. I took these out of the broiler. May look a little burnt, but that's really good. So we're gonna set these aside. And now we're gonna cook our ham. So what I'm gonna do is take some ham. This is leftover Christmas ham that we had for Christmas dinner. You can also, I've tried this recipe with deli ham or lunch meat you can get at the grocery store, and it works just as well. But we have this ham that we're trying to use so it doesn't go bad. So we're just going to cut it up and heat it up in the skillet, and then I'll show you how to make the mix. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a knife. You could just rinse the one that you used to cut the potato up. And then we're just going to cut it into small chunks, bite-sized chunks, so that we can eat it. Okay, so we have our ham that we cut into chunks. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the skillet. This is kind of a one skillet mill, sort of. And we're going to heat it, put the heat back on medium to low. This is the same skillet that we used to cook the bacon, by the way. And so we drained the leftover grease, but there's still grease in the pan, which will allow us to heat the things up. So we're going to put the ham in the pan and let that heat up. In the meantime, we're going to scramble some eggs to put in there. Okay, so the next step is to make scrambled eggs. So I'm going to take a bowl and a fork, and then I have 2 eggs here. So I'm going to crack them on the side of the counter, and then you put the egg into a bowl. And you want to do this hard enough so that the shell breaks, and you can easily just put it into a bowl or a pan if you're cooking eggs. I can cover cooking other types of eggs, or eggs otherwise another day. So the eggs are in the bowl. I'm going to set the shell off to the side, and then I'm going to take the fork and whisk it. I found this is the best way to scramble an egg, and that way you don't constantly have to be moving the spatula around if you just put the eggs in the pan. And this is while we have our ham cooking, so it'll heat up. And then we're going to put this all into all of this stuff we cooked into one big bowl. And we'll see that in a minute. So we're just going to scramble these. So the key to this is to break the yolks and have kind of like a smooth mixture. Alright, so our eggs are scrambled. It's time to start cooking them. Okay, so we've been allowing our ham to heat up, and it's slowly getting hotter. So we're going to turn the heat up from low to about medium. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our egg mixture that we just made and put it in the pan over the ham. So we're going to let that cook. What we're going to do is allow it to cook in the pan, and when we can see the egg starting to solidify, we're going to put the bacon that we made in, and then also the potatoes. So let's just wait a few minutes for that to happen. Okay, so you can see the eggs in the pan starting to solidify. The reason we want some of the oil from the bacon in the pan is because if you don't have oil, then the eggs stick to the pan easier and you don't get all of the eggs that you made. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take the potatoes that we made from the broiler and put them into this mixture. Like I said, this isn't like all in one mixture. So you could just take the ham and eggs that we have in the skillet, mix it up, and then you have ham and eggs, which is a pretty easy breakfast. So next we're going to take the bacon we cooked and break it up into chunks in this mixture. Got really crispy. So you really good, taste like bacon. And you just want bite-sized chunks. I know some people love sausage or just like ham, but I like the taste of bacon. but I also like this ham that we made for Christmas, so I'm using both. Why not, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to mix this all up in the pan. It's letting the egg cook, but it gets over everything. So if you like eggs, this is a meal that you would like, because once the eggs are cooked, the goal is to have a bite of egg in every bite. The eggs are good for you, so that's a good thing, right? Protein. So we're just letting the egg cook. Some people like their eggs over easy, or at least where it's partially slimy so you can taste the yolk. I'm a little different. I like my eggs done. I'm not really into slimy foods, so that's how I'm making it. But if you like your eggs slimy, then feel free to cook it like that. Alright, there we go. Doesn't it look good? Well, you can smell it. It smells really good. Okay, so now we're going to put the finishing touches on our breakfast. One thing I like to use is you can use grated cheese, but I like to use Parmesan cheese. And then what I do is I sprinkle it over the top of what I just made. So the ham, bacon, eggs, potatoes, everything. Now the following combination may seem kind of weird, but I promise you it tastes very delicious. What I'm going to do is take a spoon and spoon some salsa over this combination. Just a little bit. I'm not a fan of heat, but if you are, you can always add more. Basically, you can do the ingredients you like. I mean, why would you cook something that you don't like, right? And so now I'm going to take ketchup. Ah! It's getting kind of empty. So, and I'm going to put ketchup over the whole thing. It may, like I said, it may sound kind of weird, but to me anyway, it's delicious. So, there you have it. Breakfast mix up. Not that hard. It requires a little time, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy. So, you've been watching another episode of Starving College Student's Guide to Cooking. Keep looking on this channel, Starving Student 08, for more recipes. And if you have comments of something you would like to see me make, or on how to improve this video feed, please feel free to leave comments.